Hi, everyone. I'm Kendra. Welcome to our monthly speaker series hosted by the Inclusive Gifted Education Center. Our center is housed within the Pacific Inclusive Education Resource and Resources Center, or PEER for short. PEER is managed by faculty and staff at the Center on Disability Studies, located here on the University of Hawaii at Manoa campus. The overarching goal of our center is to nurture untapped talents through inclusive practices. So, to reach this goal, we host monthly speaker series as well as an in person symposium that focuses on building awareness on neurodiversity and twice exceptionality. Our speaker series and symposiums are made possible through funding from the U.S. Department of Education, Jacob K. Javits Gifted and Talented Education Program grant. Each month, our speaker series will focus on a different topic and perspectives from well-known speakers in the areas of inclusion, neurodiversity, and education. I'm really happy today to present our speaker, who is Judy Reilly. Judy Reilly is the director of the Center for Neurodiversity and Employment Innovation at the University of Connecticut. Judy joined the University of Connecticut in 2021 to design, build, and direct a national academic center that has as its mission to address the specific challenges and opportunities related to neurodiversity and employment. So this UConn Center for Neurodiversity and Employment Innovation pursues innovative and scalable strategies that embrace a strength-based perspective on neurodiverse individuals' talents and addresses the barriers blocking their successful employment. So for today, Ms. Reilly will discuss the work UConn is doing to engage in or change the employment landscape for neurodiverse students and alumni and provide exponentially more opportunities for meaningful employment. She will address innovative approaches to college recruiting practices, job search support, and career readiness. And these strategies better serve these richly diverse generation of students and also talk about the education necessary for employers to learn how to better value and retain neurodiverse talents. So we welcome to you again, Ms. Judy Reilly.
I'm Judy Reilly, and I have been with the University of Connecticut since 2020. Like Kendra said, we were, as a university, we were thinking there are so many neurodivergent individuals. I come from the pre-college education space and was working with families in that sort of K through 12, and then it just became this sort of shifting from the educational advocacy to what about employment, right? What about the rest of our lives? So UConn wanted to build a center that focused on why are neurodivergent individuals who have average to above average intelligence struggling to get employment, and what do we need to be doing differently? And UConn took the position of thinking, well, we need to focus on employers more than anything. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to share my screen here, and then I'll probably take it up and I'll take it down, and then I'll probably fail because I'm bad at technology. So first, let me get us into presenter mode, and let me get you the introduction. So one of the things I like to let people know, first of all, someone speak up if you're not seeing the right screen. Like if you're looking at my email, that is not what we should be seeing.
Oh,
Okay.
Judy, we can see the presenter, all
Presenter
the
mode.
notes though. Yeah.
All right. See, I told you. Let me try again. I probably just pushed the wrong. Yep, I did. I just pushed the wrong screen to share. All right, how about now?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for letting me know. So, as I said, I'm Judy Reilly. So, how do I get into this space? And I'm sure it's like a lot of people here. And I want to hear who's here next. So we're going to engage. We're going to talk. But I have 4 allegedly adult children now, 3 of whom who are neurodivergent, and 2 had really, really profound struggles in their educational journeys, and then in their employment journeys as well. So I spent my life really in business and corporate America, and then applying a lot of my skills from business to the education realm. And then it came full circle, and we thought, let's go back to employment, right? And think about how do we get neurodivergent students, whether you go to college or not, just when you're done with your educational experience, how do we transition into successful post-education lives? So as I said, I want to know who's here, and I know we have probably 40-something people, so we can't go around and introduce ourselves. But what we can do is I took a stab based on my talks with the University of Hawaii. I'm like, who's coming? And I know we have a lot of, I think, educators here. But if you don't see your sort of category on the screen there, please speak up. Let me know. Do we have any practitioners here? And by that, I mean people who work in the space of maybe learning differences, but aren't educators. I'd love to hear that. And any neurodivergent job seekers or family members. Kendra, if people are raising their hands or chit-chatting in the chat, please let me know. So feel free to drop into the chat maybe a unique category that you're coming from if it's not listed here. But more importantly, what I really want to do is I want to hear about your concerns and needs. So UConn's focus really is about the employment piece. Our center is focused on the when you're done with education, how are we better connecting you with employment that's commensurate with what you want to be doing and what you can do, career pathways. So, anybody want to share when you heard about this particular presentation, neurodiversity, I think probably about employment transition, what came to mind? I'm gonna wait 10 seconds and see if anybody speaks up. No pressure if you do not want to, but I'd love to hear any questions or needs that you were hoping to answer during this conversation. And Kendra, you can let me know if anybody says anything in the chat. I love it. Do we have mostly educators here? Kendra, Jen, do you know?
We've had a lot of Department of Health, the Department of Education folks, University of Hawaii folks that signed up. We have someone who said in the chat that they're a parent here. I did see Arc of Kona. I'm not so familiar with that
Oh,
organization,
you have
but
ARC.
there's
Okay.
a few of those individuals are coming.
Wonderful.
And then they're from different islands as well. So we have folks from our island here in Honolulu, on Oahu, and then as well as the affectionately known as the Big Island or Hawaii Island.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm
and that
seeing
we
it
have a
now. That's
employment
awesome.
specialist. Yep.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, this is who I was especially hoping would be here today. So really let me just get back to my slides here. When I talk about what UConn does, and I want to put the slides down for a minute, but first I want to just orient us to it. The idea is we can work with neurodivergent individuals, and we'll talk a little bit about like, what do we mean by that? Because you all know, but let's make sure we're all saying the same thing. All we want, we can upskill. But if you do not have environments and you do not have spaces and employers who are educated and committed and then make changes in how they do everything from hiring to managing and retaining and upskilling, then we're not going to meet with the kind of success that we want to see. So, the barriers to successful employment, whether it's after high school or after college or during college, like we work with a lot of students who are not getting internships, right? The same reasons they maybe aren't succeeding with their career search or focusing on their academics. They may be struggling in academics for reasons of accessibility, whatever that is. But along the path, finding employers who understand neurodiversity, and one of the biggest questions I get is, well, should I tell them I have autism? Should I tell them that I have a learning difference? Do I check the box on, do you have a disability? Should I ask for accommodations? It's the biggest question. And the problem is it doesn't feel psychologically safe to disclose something like that if you have no confidence that the person you're disclosing to or the organization you're disclosing to would know what to do with it, other than maybe use it against you and misunderstand it. So finding employers who understand and value neurodiversity. Then, maybe you get an interview. If you get the interview, because you're not screened out for having gaps in your resume or a very different maybe path, traditional criteria, not that you shouldn't be able to get good grades if you're neurodivergent, but you may have a more challenging path to demonstrating your abilities. Did you have inclusive professors and teachers who allowed you to show your knowledge, right? So you get the interview. Do you succeed in the interview, or is it the usual conventional process where they're looking for neurotypical norms and behaviors? And so there's another barrier. And then finally, you get the job. Oh my gosh, right? Do you keep the job? This is about getting jobs and keeping jobs, and ideally careers. depends on how old we're talking about here, but where that comes from is organizations that have education and managers who are educated too. So this is what I want to focus on a little bit today and hear questions on and talk about how we can make Hawaii as a state more neuro-inclusive with their employers. So as I said, UConn Center is, we're just focused on taking the number of employers who are doing this kind of work. And we have one very special partner that I'll introduce in a minute, but we want to take that and exponentially grow them. Like every state should have at least a cluster of companies that's doing this right and doing this well. And I'll tell you what that means. But really the three areas that we focus on to do that are, we want to create more neuro-inclusive companies. We need to connect more candidates with those companies. How do I find a company, right, that I would fit at because the environment or the culture would work for me? And then finally, we do research. When I say research, I'm not talking about like in the lab and theoretical. What we want to know is, how can we measure the positive impact that neurodiversity initiatives in the companies that are doing them have on the organization? Because the hundreds of companies that come to me want to know, what are the measurable impacts if we do this? If we change how we interview, if we change how we source, if we train everybody or we educate everybody, like what's that really going to do for us? And I come from the space of, let me just tell you, like neurodiversity is a beautiful strengths-based approach to looking at all human beings. And so we walk them through that. So just to level set here, tell me if anybody differs from this, but the way UConn looks at this is we're talking about, it's, neurodiversity is applying to everybody. It's not neurodivergence, it's neurodiversity, which is everybody's going to think and learn and communicate differently. But when we're talking about this as a topic, labels will come up. So we really look at that sort of, maybe you're born, maybe this is a, acquired difference, but either way, we have almost 15 to 20% of the population that is going to meet diagnostic criteria. So when we're talking to companies, we say 15 to 20%. Now, I don't know that that's going to align with your workforce right now, because maybe people aren't accessing employment at that rate, but it's a heck of a lot of people that already work for your company. 8%, 10%, whatever it is, neurodiversity is something, and neurodivergence is something that you need to know about. So let me pause there and see, first of all, if there's any questions in the chat. I always need to check, but does anybody have any questions about this take on having employers become more educated? And do you know of employers maybe in Hawaii that are doing this kind of work? I know I saw in the chat some folks that are employment specialists. Any companies come to mind in the area that we should make sure everybody knows about in the state who are doing this work? I hope there's some Hawaiian companies. Safeway and Home Depot. Okay. Look at this. I'm going to just get in there. And Target. Excellent. Here we go. I see the question here. How would someone with a disability be able to identify which company is trained to work with someone with disabilities and which companies need more training? Fantastic question, James. And we're going to talk about that. So essentially, what we want to do here is, that's great that there's some brand names, Safeway and Home Depot and Target. But like James is saying, it needs to be a lot more, and it needs to be like when I'm going out and I'm having a job search, or I'm going on an interview, or I'm applying, and this isn't a company that has made any sign that they know anything about what neurodiversity is. What do I do then? And that's another piece of this, right? How do we educate our candidates who are searching? So seconding Safeway, that's awesome. So let me go back to the slides for a minute, and let's talk about, how do we teach more companies to do this, and also answer that question, how do we know who is doing this well? So UConn looked at this like, we need to train companies and educate companies based on a model of excellence. And this has to be about the whole process, the whole life cycle of employment, not just for neurodivergent individuals. It starts that way, and we tailor this for people who have special considerations and accommodation needs for the way they communicate, the way they may read or not read social cues, the way they may have attention impairments or processing differences, and all of those things. But what happens is we're trying to expand that to be the way that everybody is treated in that company. So our model, and UConn has partnered very closely with Wells Fargo. I don't know if anybody here has familiarity with Wells Fargo's neurodiversity program, but they are phenomenal in so much as the size and the comprehensiveness with which they're approaching this journey. There's 240,000 people in their company, and right now they are educating the entire workforce about what is neurodiversity, what are we talking about. If you're a manager, you're an employee, you're a teammate, whoever you are in our company, you need to understand how not to misunderstand what's going to show up. So we're really kind of partnered with them to help other companies learn those dimensions. And so Wells Fargo is, got this model of excellence, and UConn has distilled that into a vehicle in which cohorts of companies, so you could have a city in Hawaii or an area in Hawaii where a group of companies come together and they go through this process of, if we are not doing that yet and we want to be doing that, how do we get there? So it's a very workshop-based situation. But what I want to share with you more than anything is the lived experience of some program hires who are with Wells Fargo. This is a video that I've seen thousands of times, and it only has 2 people in it that talk about their experience. But when we're talking about a model of excellence, it's so hard to describe. You have to describe the principles through the people who are living it. So I'm going to play this video, and it's about 3 minutes long. Please flag me if people can't hear or if it's not playing right, because as you know, I'm not technologically savvy. So let's watch this, and then let's come back together and talk a little bit about that piece of what does good look like? How do we get more employers doing that in Hawaii? What do we do in the meantime? And all those sorts of things. So here is the video.
The program facilitates a more considerate, accommodating, skills-based hiring model that is accessible by design. Our workshop-based approach fosters great communication, collaboration, and teamwork amongst the applicants. This results in lower stress and anxiety and begins to build safety and trust.
I was living in a group home. It was a very hard life. No matter what I did or tried, I couldn't get out of the situation. And I wished desperately that I could go out on my own and earn money and get my own place and get independence.
I'm actually what they call doubly gifted. I'm both on the spectrum for autism. I'm very high functioning in that regard, but I also have very prominent ADHD.
The capabilities and the skill sets are amazing. What's more amazing is that these individuals have not been able to secure employment.
Interviews are a struggle that I shared with many others on the spectrum. I might be overly honest or answer the question completely way off base, or maybe the interview would not always be geared towards my actual skill set.
That doesn't mean that they don't have the skills to do the job. It just means that when you are interviewed and you don't do those things that normally a hiring manager is expecting from a candidate, you are not getting selected.
My day-to-day is awesome. My team is very flexible with me. I have been given mentorship opportunities, so I have 2 mentors.
I am responsible for making sure that big data information from thousands upon thousands of our customers moves smoothly in large volumes from point A to point B. I really enjoy it, honestly.
The program is performing far beyond my expectations.
Our ambition, what is already effectively happening, is that this program goes wide across the enterprise. It's not only technology that can adopt people who are on the spectrum.
It's important for us as a company to move past allyship and advocacy and onto activation.
At Wells Fargo, I don't tend to feel as other because we're such an underserved community. A lot of really, really skilled, high-functioning people, they're just sitting there waiting for a chance like me. And I think that's the amazing thing about this program at Wells Fargo, are really giving people that chance.
It was empowering to be able to earn my own independence and be a standalone person. I can contribute to society. I can follow my own dreams.
Our son found a company with a team of people who prioritize doing what's right over doing it the same old way, and who put in the extraordinary work that was needed to be able to include him in their organization. His life will never be the same as a result. Thank you does not do our feelings justice.
Oh, I always do that. So, when we talk about creating these opportunities, we really are talking about systematic change that's doable and digestible for companies. We talk about Target or Safeway or Home Depot. They do have programs that they have launched and started, but what we haven't quite seen, and correct me if I'm wrong on this though, is the scaling and the extensibility across the business and across their practices. So, you know, when we think about the pieces that make it excellent, for example, in the model of excellence is, how are you connected with the organizations around you, the state organizations, the voc rehabs, the nonprofits, the universities, who are identifying, you know, their candidates, their communities of neurodivergent people? Like, we have to make sure that companies are looking in the places where people are aggregated. So that's one of them, is how you source. How you interview as a company. You need to move away from this idea of assessing social skills, right? And you need to make sure that you are bringing somebody's anxiety and stress down into an ability to bring their best self to the assessment. So some sort of an assessment that is really considerate of, what does the job actually require? What does this job require? Like, have the manager say, these are the skills we need to see, and here's a way we can kind of assess that, rather than just having someone talk about what they can do. And then the biggest piece is really that post-hire. There needs to be facilitation and transition. That's the name of this conversation, right? There needs to be transition support. And that means some coaching for not just the individuals who are coming into environments and learning all about systems and you know, interactions and expectations, but for the managers too. It's really that coming together, the onboarding piece, the manager education, buddies, you know, education for the firm. So this is what we like to make sure that companies who are doing this understand this full life cycle. We talked about, or I was saying, make Hawaii a state of neuro-inclusive employer excellence. And one of the ways that UConn works to try to do this is through our partnership with Wells Fargo. We go to states or cities. We bring together coalitions of companies that are like, hey, we're kind of interested in this. First, convince us why we would do this. And then secondly, oh, okay, this is great. There's a workshop sort of model for companies to learn in. And I know there's some folks from Voc Rehab here. I don't know if Hawaii as a state has interest or funding in you know, bringing together or subsidizing a way for companies to become more neuro-inclusive, from sourcing to interviewing to post-hire. But we work with Wells Fargo, and we do this with companies all the time to give this direct instruction. And just to, you know, not to overwhelm you with text on a slide here, but in terms of like, what would they need to learn, and what does this model teach them in this workshop? We really work for a full day to make sure that companies who come leave with a blueprint. They leave with a timeline. We say, you've got 12 months to do things differently. And I don't care if you start with a cohort of 3 hires. This is how you're going to get there. And these are all the pieces you need to think about with confidence. This is what this might entail for your company. It doesn't cost a lot of money for a company to do this. We have the research that demonstrates that with respect to implementing some of these changes and how they hire and then how they support folks. And what happens is the companies that do this, they find that the teams are just so much more productive and happy and thriving, where they say, I don't know what my manager just learned. I'm not even, you know, neurotypical folks will say, this is just, everything's more structured and everything's going more it's clear, it's better for everybody. And that's the message here, is whatever changes we're doing are going to benefit everybody. So I'm going to pause there for a minute and just ask, especially with the folks who are on the call from maybe the state or with agencies or organizations where you work with the ability to bring employers together in Hawaii, and see, does anybody have thoughts on that, on how we could do that as a community in Hawaii? Companies that you know of, like I was saying earlier, we asked about companies that you know of that have a brand sort of in disability or neurodiversity, but what about those who are just starting to lean in? Any outreach? Like, let's make this a productive call where we can have something change by the time we're you know, another year from now. Anyone want to share? I know it's putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I would love to hear, what you folks are seeing out in our community. Someone shared that the schools are hiring neurodivergent students. There are companies that would welcome training on how best to work with neurodivergent students. If anyone has something that they want to share, you can put in the chat or you can unmute
Yeah.
yourself and share that now. Yeah.
Do we have anyone from Voc Rehab here?
Yeah, we have a few that share there from Vocation Rehab.
Yeah, and I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but I just want to share that Voc Rehab tends to be very focused on candidate upskilling instead of employer upskilling. But we have an initiative going right now with the state of Virginia, where they're understanding that it's a together thing. Whatever you're teaching and upskilling to neurodivergent individuals in how to better be more bilingual in the workplace, we also need to be teaching to the workplace. So I know that Virginia was doing that sort of through Voc Rehab, and I don't know why that just seemed like something to raise here. I'm
There
reading
is,
this.
yeah, there's something in the chat about their team is aiming to strengthen our district level, school level, teacher level ability to connect with our students with the community. We're just getting connected with DVR and DD. Started a student intern EA program this summer. We're looking to strengthen our transition systems. Yeah.
Yep. Well, let me put this up before we, pause too long on it. This is so one of the other things that UConn has done, because obviously, hold on, I'm doing two things at once. Is, like, what else can we do? And so let me share this too for the conversation. So one of the things that we have is a council of schools, and they're colleges and universities, but we're really thinking about broadening that. It doesn't have to be colleges and universities. It's really anybody who's working with people who are on the pathway to employment. And so we have a council, and then we have a candidate network that the council uses, but also sometimes candidates just find us. And it's national. And what we do is we deliver not just job and internship opportunities, and the goal is to get those locally to the, candidates who are local to the hiring opportunity. But we're pushing out education and training about, like, how do you manage your neurodiversity? I talked about, like, do I check the disability box? How do I manage the fact that I have a phone screen and I'm really nervous? Or what do I do when they ask me questions and I don't expect them? So we do a lot of workshops for the candidate network that our universities will also attend, because it's like, well, listen, we're doing this with our students too. So we work together. I mean, the whole point of UConn Center is really to work together. But when we have companies coming to us, we just had Pfizer, we always have Wells Fargo doing job opportunities, Liberty Mutual, we have Travelers, we have lots of companies that are hiring in different areas of the country, though I haven't had anyone ask me for Hawaii yet. And we go to our council and we say to the schools and our partners in those areas, hey, this is an opportunity that's in Des Moines, Iowa. Like, let's get your Des Moines students and individuals, in line for this, because this is for them. So that's part of the network and the council when we talk about what else we can be doing. I'm gonna go back now to the chat because I can't see it when I'm up here like this. Any other resources that are in existence right now that you use in Hawaii? I mean, I was just seeing, obviously, I don't know if I'm saying it right, Janika, you were talking about, like, you're doing lots of things, but you need to strengthen your transition system. So you're talking about the transition systems through the public schools? And again, I don't mean to put anybody on the spot.
Hi, so thank you, Janika. This is Janika. So I think that at the individual teacher level, there's a lot of attempts to reach out and waiting for responses back. But I'd really like to see more of, like, flow of information moving a little bit more freely. And I think one of the challenges is that the DVR and DD here are also very stretched already. So, like, there's one care coordinator for Kona. And if every school just suddenly reached out to this one person, I'm sure she will be overwhelmed.
Yep.
I know there's a lot more opportunities for community-based work on Oahu. But I also want to say that I'm wondering if at some point we could see examples of students that might have different needs from what we were seeing in the videos today.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great point. So I always make sure to stay in the lane that UConn is in. And because we were founded at a university, what we did was we really focused on individuals whose trajectory, aptitude, interests were aligned with full-time professional work and weren't meeting with it, right? There is an entirely other population of people for whom successful employment isn't full-time, and it may not be on some sort of career trajectory. And there are a lot of, entities working in that space. We don't happen to be in that space right now. So that's probably disappointing to hear. So yeah, what I will say is that the college students and alumni that we work with have sometimes been unsuccessful for 3, 4, 5 years. They've had, over 100 interviews. They've not gotten offers. And so we're really focusing on that space. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for your thank you. So tell me what's going on in Hawaii with respect to organizing this effort. And are people on this call maybe more focused on some of that? On some of the folks who are not looking for professional employment, they're maybe not professional, sorry, but they're not looking for full-time. Because it's a different solution, and book rehab's helping everybody, and I'm sure a lot of people on this call are too. The Hawaii chapter of the Association of People Supporting Employment First has held 2 employment summits to bring together agencies, providers, and share network. Awesome. That's really, I don't want to put it on the spot, Sandra, but I would love to hear more about that. The APSI, is that what you call it?
So it's a national organization, and we have a Hawaii chapter, and it's been in existence for about 2 years now. It's held 2 employment summit in conjunction with the Pacific Rim Disability and Diversity Conferences that CDS organizes every year. And this is kind of the hub of where a lot of the issues with disability employment has been happening. It's still in the formative stages, but we'd like to do more data collection and data support for many of the agencies who would like to share, but are often stymied by, the usual agency issues. So I just want to throw that out there and let people know you can join our effort, and it's ongoing.
Thank you for sharing that. And Sandra, can you clarify, is it, are employers targeted in that? Because what I find with a lot of agencies and state efforts is it's like all the helpers are there and all the people who want the jobs are there, but we failed to get the employers in the room to compel them to understand why this is good to do for them. Is that something that the summit includes, or is it?
Yeah, and there's certainly been some outreach, but it is an uphill battle, no doubt. And one of the issues, I think, is that there's not enough education in the community to draw the employers in and to let them know what they can do to help push the numbers forward on disability employment.
Yeah, disability employment is something that needs to not be thought of as a charity. And so when we move from thinking about it that way into a sort of a business mindset, what we approach it as is this makes good business sense, and here's why, and here's the research and the statistics, whether it's a part-time, person who's maybe going to fill a role that is not in a career advancing professional role or not, it doesn't matter. It's understanding why this makes good business sense. We have generations growing up right now where they've grown up and they expect this from organizations, and they are understanding that this is who they've been in school with. We have least restrictive environment now. This is just a whole different generation. So I think that making sure that there is some education for Hawaii businesses that speaks to the why would you do this, that compels them, it puts it in terms that are beneficial to them. And then you say, and here's how, right? So that would be I think the goal. I don't know if that's something that APSI can take on, or if you wanted support. Like UConn Center is really just out here to sort of kind of like incubate and amplify any work that's already happening in any way that we can do that.
Yeah, so a conversation with Patrick Gartside, who is with Work Now Hawaii and has been leading the charge on this I think would be really beneficial for everyone. So I'll put his contact in the chat.
Oh, awesome. Work Now Hawaii. So
Judy, oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry to
Oh,
interrupt.
no, please, I'm reading it. Yeah.
There's a question, and I actually have the same question. If you can share a little bit more about the ways that you encourage, I had in my question entice, but do you encourage employers, to be interested in learning more about it? I know you shared a little bit, but if you have any more examples of things that you tell employers and how, to get them to participate in these workshops or educational days that you have, and what are some of the benefits that we can tell employers,
Yeah.
why they
Yeah.
should join? Yeah.
Yep. We just did a presentation in Nashville on Monday about this to about 30 companies. What we did was we talked about the why would you do this? And then we have a workshop in September for these companies to say, okay, here's who you send to the workshop so that you can actually implement this. But as far as the why and I'm not screen sharing anymore, right? I hope.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Just us.
So
Yeah.
we really, we break it down into 3 primary advantages, which is talent advantage. And people always think, oh, right, it's a new pipeline of talent. No, it is a talent advantage in so much as there are a lot of individuals who are ready to work, who are eager to work, who need the right opportunity with companies that have made some changes. So it is access to labor, to workers who need to meet, some of the workforce demands. But what it also is it recruits and retains people in the organization much more broadly. So when a company invests in neurodiversity, what they end up doing is sending out a message, right? If they're going to put a little bit of effort into this, they're going to want that kind of communication to their entire organization, and also probably a little bit of external communication. Look what we're doing. Isn't this great? And when you look at the statistics about how many people this is going to impact, who then lean in and say, you get a reputational enhancement, you have people who feel really proud to work for the company that they work for. And that's not something that's that common. So talent advantage has to do with, yes, you're recruiting from a new pool, but what you're also doing is recruiting people who say, you're doing this in a really nice way. I have 2 offers. I'm neurotypical, and I care a lot about this because my sister is, neurodivergent, and I'm going to work for you. So there's that. And then there's the retention piece for the same reasons. The talent, I mean, the reputational enhancement, and we're doing a study right now on this with respect to internally, how people feel about your brand to the company, but also externally. So people who maybe don't even know about your company, but you describe the effort you're doing, which is we're making an effort to learn more about this, to hire more people, to change how we do these things. How does it make you feel about our company? And what happens is the metrics show, which is customers, right? They feel good about your company. So that always moves the executive decision makers as well. And then finally, there's something just called cultural competency that we talk about with them. And that's known as, we have a culture that is more sophisticated and more leadership oriented than others. So as far as our, peer comparison with other companies, it's a sign of leadership and advancement. So those are the 3 areas we really point to. But with the research that's been done on the actual size of the unemployment problem, it varies depending on which studies, but we have some really current, very robust academic research from multiple countries that has the unemployment rate, anywhere from 25% to 30%. We have Australia, Israel, United States, UK, where they're all up and hovering around that 30%. And it can be with folks who have the exact same credentials and maybe education level as others. And there yet half as many of them are employed. So that's another moment to say to companies, do you understand how many of your own employees have family members, loved ones, or any sort of personal tie to this? Because it's a lot.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I didn't consider the retention part until you shared earlier in your presentation today.
Yeah, no, I'm glad
that's really
to
great.
expound on any of that. Thank you for bringing it up.
There are a few other comments in the chat, but I'm not sure if you had more of your presentation you wanted to get through. We can circle
Not at
back.
all. No, no, no. I love the conversation. What I did have was simply the, okay, I'm up here now, right? Am I sharing again? No, I'm not sharing again.
Not yet.
So I just have a contact slide for the end so that we can make sure that people who want to reach out, if you want to reach out, if you want to fold UConn's work into anything you're all already doing, or pick our brains so that you have a contact. But other than that, no, I really wanted to move into, we have the questions and answers, which we've kind of gotten into. I'd love to understand if anybody on the call is interested in maybe collaborating somehow or connecting us somehow with the possibility of a Hawaii-based employer training in some way. Please feel free. And otherwise, let's just take the questions.
Great. I actually want to go back a little bit. There seems to be questions about resources, for students or with persons with disabilities, like is there a list of companies
Right.
that are disability compliant?
Right.
Or are they a list of employers who are offering diverse positions other than stocking, janitorial, etc.? Where are these? Yeah, like, is there some kind of resource out there that folks can access? Yeah.
There are, and I'm going to include some of that so that people have it in the post-meeting follow-up. But just to speak to a few of these things, Disability In, I'm sure everybody here has heard of and or knows about. Maybe it's one of the largest employer disability networks, which they award companies for meeting a certain level of, I guess, disability inclusion. I don't happen to know if that measure or score means a ton, but it does mean companies care enough to be part of that network. So Disability In is one. They also have a Neurodiversity at Work roundtable as part of Disability In. Again, signals all the companies who are, at least they know enough to say this is something we should be, trying to do. There's such a variety of competency and quality and actual effort that Disability In isn't always the right one. We also will send you, our candidate network, our neuro-inclusive candidate network is constantly pushing out information about the companies that come to us and do the work. We also are developing our own maturity index, which is less about scoring a company and more about just highlighting what does this company do differently to make them neuro-inclusive. They can't just say that, like, we care about it. Great, what are you doing differently? So our candidate network, which again is, that'll be linked afterward, is something that we have university professionals in, we have practitioners in, and then we also have job seekers and family members in, so that they're getting all of the information that UConn can send.
That's so great. Even someone who is has a disability and is looking for employment, like, or I know you mentioned so many things that employers are doing, right, to create a better, more inclusive environment. And it seems like this would be something that employers showcase on their website or when they're doing recruiting, because it seems, the great thing to do. But for someone who is looking for employment, is there any recommendations that you have? Is there a certain place on the website? Should they approach their HR person? Like, how should they go about that?
What do you mean by the HR person?
Or just like, if they're looking for employment, they really want to find somewhere that, has been through some training, and to what extent their training has been. What are some recommendations that you have for that person in trying to find this information about this company before they should? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard. So two things. One is you're going to want to go to our website and you're going to want to get the list of companies that we have that we work with. These are all really large companies who have the resources and the reputational commitment to be doing this. The problem is Hawaii. Like, I don't know that any are right in Hawaii, right? The problem is not Hawaii, sorry. I didn't mean that. But knowing who's doing that, and so that's why sorry. So two things. One is go to our website, make sure you connect with us so that you're going to be getting that kind of information. Our website is actually in the middle of July going to have those resources on it. What we don't like to do is put the resources and the companies up if we can't describe what their efforts are. We're really sort of like, look, you don't have to be perfect, but you also can't claim things that aren't entirely true. So when we circulate an opportunity, we make sure that candidates understand this company's basically done a tiny little bit versus. So what I don't want to say is I don't want to overstate the number of companies doing this well. The reason we're partnered with Wells Fargo is they're the only ones doing it as comprehensively, with the exception of Microsoft, which again, it's a different approach, but they have definitely committed. JP Morgan Chase has committed and is doing it quite well. Pfizer has started doing it. We have a lot of companies, but it's not a lot when you're looking for jobs. It's just not enough. And that's why I think, and that's why one of our approaches with Wells Fargo is, can we go to the communities? Can we go to the geographies and get a coalition of employers there to change how even just the basic level, so that the next year we have this conversation, we can list 17 Hawaii-based employers or Hawaii hiring organizations who've done some work. So yeah, that's part of it.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm looking at some other questions, but I think you addressed them. Someone had a question about how do businesses adopt a policy for utilizing neurodiverse employees and integrating in integrated employment positions, which we talked about. You shared those ways that you encourage employers to participate in the trainings and adopt.
Yeah, I mean, it
Okay.
really. Yeah, I think that, so someone asked, how do we move beyond the traditional, or not the traditional, but the usual like stock person? Oh, we gotta move past that. We also need to move into different spaces, like not everybody wants to be in programming, right? Like, so we're doing a lot of work for students who are very creative and artistic, and they were looking for jobs in that space. So the more variety in the type of employers you have, what you do is you take the roles they need filled. You take those roles, you don't create special roles. And then you make those roles accessible for applying to. And can you just imagine, like, if we could put out some sort of, multiple companies in Hawaii that have been through this training and are interviewing for the following positions, and there's a variety of them, and it wouldn't nearly be enough, right? But it would still be something. That alone would be a huge difference, I think. But sorry, now I lost the thread on what the commenter's question was.
No, I think there's a lot of interest in how we can get employers here in our local community to also participate at this, in this. How do we encourage them to be, on board with this effort, so that we can really create a good environment for all, right? For everyone that's working there, everyone who's coming on board, and those that are already working there. It sounds so awesome to me. I'm very lucky to be working here at the center. So, we have a really awesome environment. And yeah, so I'm very blessed in that way, and I would love for it to be everywhere, right? Let's see. Does anyone else, I'm sorry, does anyone else have any other questions? I didn't see another question, and I do need to interrupt you, Judy, if you had some other thought you wanted to finish.
Well, one more thing I'd like to offer the group, and again, this is just stuff we all talk all the time, right? We get these ideas, but just keep this one brewing, is we do a virtual event for companies too, where we get a coalition, not coalition, but like it'll be employers from a regional area. And we just do a 1 hour, it's great. It's a discussion about why would we invest? It's, why does investing in neurodiversity? And I know we have a lot of disability conversation on this phone call too, and there's that overlap between neurodiversity and disability, and it doesn't really matter to me. But the point being, why does it make good business sense? And so what we do is we use that as almost a catalyst to get companies interested in the workshop. We have to sell them on the idea first. We have to get them driving the desire to do this. And that's really what UConn's work has focused on, is that market-based movement.
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing all of this. There is one question, and it says, how does neurodiversity employment work for those with disabilities?
Yep. And I'm assuming you mean medical-based or physical-based disabilities. And it's, at least the way we teach this, and like I said, we kind of use neurodivergence as the context for teaching it, but all of the changes teach companies how to think about people differently and accessibility differently, so that you move from compliance and into getting ahead, like smart support is what we call it. And so the way neurodiversity employment works for those with disabilities is you create that culture and you create that environment and that workplace understanding and excitement around, we're really inclusive. And again, it goes to how many people this touches. Sometimes Wells Fargo goes out of their way to say, yes, we've hired 300 people into full-time professional roles, and they started a neurodiversity internship program all over the country this summer for college students, some of which are not in college. But what they say is, it's not just them. It's not just them and their family members. It's also all of the people in our company who see us doing this and are just volunteering in droves. I feel so proud to work here, and so there's that exponential kind of effect on a company.
Oh, that's really wonderful to hear. I have kids, so it gives me so much hope for when they're ready to seek employment. Yeah. Does anyone else, we have a few minutes left, so does anyone else have any other questions for Judy? You can put it in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself at this time to ask it.
Everybody's probably sick of hearing from me.
They're
like,
can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yes, hi, I'm Nancy with Kauai DVR branch. And thank you so much for doing this. And I love seeing the responses in the chat. I'm seeing that we have quite a dedicated community of people who would love to help employers help our clients. And my experience with employers is they definitely want to be part of the solution. So I would love to get more information from you, Judy, and we could work with our Kauai branch with helping some of these, particularly the larger employers like Target. And we love working with Work Now Hawaii and APSI, and they're wonderful at being able to help educate us too as well. So I'm very encouraged, and I hope we get to hear more information about your services, because we can try to educate them, but I think it means a lot more when it comes from you.
Well, what's interesting you say, Nancy, is I say the same thing about, I can educate them, but it means a lot more when it comes from the senior executive of Wells Fargo who tells them, we've done it, it's amazing, and here's how. So that's why the co-delivery. And also it happens that senior executive who we're partnered with has a daughter who's a special ed teacher in Hawaii. So he's like, I'll go to Hawaii, get to see my daughter. But I know that's not a point.
It would create more inspiration for them, and also help us as voc rehab providers, whether with the nonprofits here or the state. It would help us become better informed and have us all sort of be on the same page as well. Because what I noticed when Target in Kauai opened here just less than 3 years ago, the director there immediately reached out to me and said, bring me more. We want to be part of the solution. We want help us with you. And that's the sense I get a lot from employers. They need to know how they can create opportunity without diminishing their bottom line,
No, I totally.
You can help us. So thank you, Kendra, for making this available to us. Yeah.
I am putting my, I'm just typing what I'm saying. I put my email in there in the chat. Feel free. We also have, a website here. Let me just throw this contact info up, but we'll also share the slides. I know I'm not even in presenter mode anymore, but here we go. This, and maybe I can do this, as you can see, else, there. So our website, we have our general mailbox, and I put my email in the chat. We are just getting lots of traction. We have a company actually in London that has said they want to have a coalition event there too. You're right, Nancy, they want to be part of it. And the reason that UConn has focused so much on employers is because the two pieces that we're missing, which is this can't be charity. We have to understand what it costs, what are the rewards, you know, what's the benefits. But then we have to also say, okay, don't make this the hardest thing we've ever done in the whole wide world. Like, give us a way to start. And that's what UConn School really is.
Thank you so much, Judy. We really appreciate it. I know we're over time, everyone, and I'm very sorry, but this was such a great conversation. I would have loved to have kept it going. But, you know, thank you again, Judy, so much for your time, for being here with us today, and sharing all of your knowledge and experiences. So hopeful that we can somewhat establish some of that here in our local community, or continue all of the great efforts that I was reading about in the chat. This is not my area for sure, so I've learned so much today from you and everyone else that is on this call today. Thank you guys so much for sharing what's going on. It was so enlightening, gives me so much hope for the future. Loving everything that's going on here. I do have a couple final announcements to make. So for our funding purposes, if you are able to fill out our pulse survey, that would be great. And I'm putting the link into the chat. Also, I do have information about next month's session. If you are also interested, here's our flyer to next month's session on twice exceptionality, or a framework to support twice exceptional students on their educational journey. So you can also click on that link there. The flyer has a QR code to sign up or register for next month's session, which will be July 24th. Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Hawaii Standard Time. I'll also send that out into also send that out in the email. So thank you all again for being here today. I really appreciate your time, Judy and everyone else.